In 1992, an area of more than 5,000 square miles of some of the most spectacular coastal scenery of Northern California was designated a National Marine Sanctuary, a rare trend-setting initiative, explored, now on BBC World News, in cutting-edge California.
On California's Pacific coast is the fishing town of Monterrey, immortalized by native son John Steinbeck in his novel Cannery Row. Today, the fishing industries are nearly gone. Instead, Monterrey has become the center of a new industry: marine research. For Monterey Bay is home to an exceptionally diverse variety of sea life, which allows advanced research into many aspects of marine science and biology. So this is Cutting Edge California, exploring the depths of the ocean. Monterey Bay was declared a marine reserve in 1992. It's a federally protected national park that straddles 276 miles of Californian coastline and 5,322 square miles of ocean.
Well, since we have the most spectacular coastline and since we have this great ocean, I think it's important that we protect it. We protect certain areas in the ocean, certain, square mileage, where we don't let anyone fish, where we don't let anyone touch anything, keep it exactly the way it used to be.
The sanctuary is the largest in the system, and it's comparable to any of the big national parks within the United States, even as big as some of our East Coast states. This part of the Central Coast is by far the most diverse and abundant in terms of the sea life here. Because of the deep canyons that come off the Central Coast here, creates sea conditions, the upwelling, that really drive the food web along the coast here and create the right habitat for whales and dolphins and seals and sea lions and sea otters, as you can see right here behind us. And so this is a very unique area along the whole Pacific coast of the United States, but especially here in California.
It's like the Grand Canyon below the water. So all these animals that normally you'd have to travel a long ways offshore to see, we can see within a few miles of the coast.
There's probably, we say, probably the greatest concentration and the greatest diversity of marine scientists anywhere in the world around this crescent-shaped Monterey Bay. So we've got perhaps 20 to 25 different entities, maybe 2,500 scientists and staff who study the ocean. You say, well, why would they all come here? Well, it's the life.
So there's a lot of studies going on, a lot of research going on. As much as protecting the land, we also want to protect our coastline.
An important center of marine research in Monterey Bay is the aquarium, which houses 550 different species of animals and plants.
Monterey Bay Aquarium has always had a mission to inspire conservation of the oceans, and it's always been based on science. We started off researching kelp forest habitats when we first opened and spent 10 years looking at that. We've always wanted to look at different habitats. So because we have living animals here, we have the opportunity to do research that would inform what's happening with those animals in the wild.
We work on tunas, both yellowfin and bluefin tuna, some of which are swimming behind me right here, and we work on the southern sea otter, a marine mammal that was brought near extinction at the turn of the 1900s, and we work to bring those populations back to health.
Another creature the aquarium works with is the rather unglamorous jellyfish. They have been conducting studies and research into the life cycle, breeding and feeding habits of this species for 25 years.
Jellies don't have a brain. They have muscles that they use to compress their bell, which is how they swim. The tentacles around the outside are covered with stinging cells, which is how they kill their prey. And then once they do that, they move the prey, whatever it is, to the mouth, which is generally on the underside of the jelly in the very center. There's thousands of jellies, and some are still being discovered, new species that are undescribed. When you have a tank with jellies in it, you have water going in, water has to come out. We need to protect the jellies because they'll go down the drain, essentially, and die. So we've designed, over the years, tanks specifically to keep and display jellyfish in the aquarium here that we call chrysals. And that essentially allows them to thrive and be displayed to the general public.
But if the aquarium is devoted to studying the small and fragile, it is also devoted to studying the large and strong. The aquarium collaborates with the neighboring Hopkins Marine Station to track great white sharks.
The megafauna, these large carnivores, are even, in my view, particularly important because they feed at the top of the marine food web. So what is happening to these large carnivores reflects what's happening throughout the food chain, from the primary producers, which are the phytoplankton and the plants of the ocean, through the food chain to these top carnivores.
I specifically study white sharks here, and we're interested in how all these different animals utilize the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. It seems to us, when we look at it, just an empty body of water, but the animals tell us where the really important areas are in this vast expanse, and they aggregate in these areas. And so when we see lots of different species show up in a particular area at once, it gives us a window into that world and helps us determine where important processes are occurring in the open ocean.
They have developed an electronic archival tag. This is an electronic device about the shape of a large fat cigar that has an onboard computer, and it measures temperature, water temperature, it measures depth, and it geolocates where the animal is. So it tells you where the animal is, and it downloads its data to a satellite, and we get the data back at the lab, and we can look at basically every 2 minutes the life of this shark for the past year.
These sharks don't just live along the coast, they migrate thousands of kilometers offshore. And recently we've gathered a collection of tracks of different white sharks, and they all seem to be aggregating at 2 spots offshore. And one is near the Hawaiian Islands, and the other spot is halfway between Baja and the Hawaiian Islands in an area we call the White Shark Cafe. And so that's been a really a major discovery for us over the past couple years. This White Shark Cafe is a real mystery to us. We're not sure what they're doing out there. A cafe could be somewhere where you go to get a bite to eat, but it also might be somewhere where you would go to increase your chances of meeting a partner. So we think that it's one of the 2 things, maybe both, and that's why we call it that.
Another creature that attracts much scientific interest is the dolphin. A human diver can suffer from a fatal condition called the bends, which is caused by a sudden decrease of pressure if the diver surfaces too quickly. For long enough, it was assumed that marine mammals like dolphins simply couldn't get the bends. Here at the Institute of Marine Sciences, part of the University of California, Santa Cruz, scientists are investigating that assumption.
There had been a series of strandings of cetaceans, pilot whales and beaked whales being the most famous. And during the course of looking at why those animals died, some investigators had theorized that the animals had actually gotten the bends. With the dolphin sitting right here, his heart rate is about 110 beats per minute, just sitting here on the water surface. As soon as he submerges, his heart rate will go down to about 30 beats per minute, and that's under normal conditions.